and welcome to Quality for Truth for August 24th. I'm your host, John Davison. With me this week, Tom McShea, as ever. Say hello, Tom.
Hello.
And over here, not Brendan Sinclair.
Hello.
This is Peter Brown.
Hey, everybody.
Who is just as good, if not better, than Brendan Sinclair. What do you think? Because Beard's now winning.
Okay.
Yes, Tom. This is true.
Beards makes you look, both manly and intelligent.
Wow.
Find. Yeah,
wow.
You should try it.
Okay.
Yeah. So this week we are going to talk about some Grand Theft Auto. We're going to talk about free-to-play and probably Call of Duty, right?
A little bit.
A little bit of Call of Duty. But we're going to start off this week. New Grand Theft Auto 5 screens were shown. Not of people shooting each other or driving around in cars, but people riding bicycles and jumping out of airplanes and paragliding. And what else was there? There was
a little bit of tennis.
A little bit of tennis. So change of direction for the franchise, maybe? Or what do you think, Pete? Do you think the
I don't know about
hype cycle is like getting out of control already?
Well, I think it's good to pepper things out there, right? You want people to get excited. Mm-hmm. It's good for the publishers. Yeah, good for us. I'm not so sure. I don't know. I mean,
because this came on the heels of a man sitting on the edge of a swimming pool, and what was the other screenshot they did before that? I mean, so far they've been very ambiguous with what they've shown us of GTA 5. I mean, it's classic Rockstar. They're just messing with us, right?
Rockstar is, and GTA specifically, because not even the other Rockstar franchises, this is the only... You can't do this with other games. Not even Call of Duty has, we're going to release 3 screenshots, and people are going to blow their load based on this stuff. And I find it a little scary, I guess, how in control of their message Rockstar is. Because, they don't like to deal with the press. They don't like to do things like release trailers. They just want to do exactly what they want to do and control what people talk about. So they want you to talk about, transportation, so they release transportation screenshots. Mm-hmm. And it's this isn't really veering at all from what we expect from GTA. You'd be like, oh, there's probably going to be mini game stuff like tennis, and there's probably going to be transportation stuff like bikes. So it's exactly what we expect. So there's not really any reason to even talk about this other than they want us to, and they kind of fuel the flames of hype. So it's I don't know.
So I mean, I think the message here might be that some of these activities are a little more lighthearted than what we're used to in the series. And so in that regard, it does kind of paint a little bit of a different picture.
It brought to mind San Andreas a little bit, because there was the skydiving and the rocket packs and all that. I mean, they had the core story that was pretty serious, but around the edges in San Andreas was where all the humor was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, I love GTA 3 and then GTA 4 moving in a different direction that I didn't really appreciate.
Why not? Was it just too...
It was lifeless.
Brutal?
I guess. It was tried to be more realistic and grounded in both its narrative and its gameplay. And I just found the narrative a little bit laughable at times, and I found that the car handling and stuff was just... it was too strict for fun.
I found Nico really hard to...
Yeah.
Relate to, whereas I can't remember the name of the guy in San Andreas. I'm totally blanking. But
CJ.
I really like CJ.
Yeah.
I mean, over the course of the game, you actually felt like you had a relationship with him.
Yeah. So I guess they can do their press tours, they can do their trailers. Until I get my hands on the game, I have no idea what to expect.
Right.
So this kind of just feels like it's a false tease until they deliver the goods in March.
What would you have liked to see instead? What would have been?
I don't really care about any of this. I'm gonna play the game right away because it's GTA 5, and a lot of other people are. So I mean, they're trying to build the flames through the fall season, so people maybe hold off buying Sleeping Dogs or other games. But I mean, until I get my hands on it, I don't really care, because they can talk about a more mature narrative or a fun narrative or something. But until I see how it plays out, it's just words.
Yeah,
I guess.
Of course.
So, Dead Peasant on the site says, I'm glad they chose to release small amounts of information prior to release. There's often too much of a game given away before release these days, and it ruins a lot of them. I think this goes to your point that Rockstar are really good at the way they just dribble out these little bits. I mean, partly it's born out of they know that we will voraciously consume absolutely everything they put out on this franchise. But it is nice that when the game comes out, you don't know everything about it.
There's surprises.
Yeah.
I like their approach more than BioWare, who they just can't wait to tell you everything that's going to be in the game. They're just so eager. So I do appreciate this because I like surprises with games. So they do have that going for them.
Yeah.
A lot of people were very excited in the comments. One dude, I'll just take the contrasting opinion because almost everybody's pumped. Asegu Dono. I'm not good at pronouncing, you know this. Honestly, I'm getting kind of fatigued by GTA. 4 marks the first game in the series that I did not finish.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think I don't know. Maybe I'm just putting myself into this. I think a lot of people kind of had this idea that Rockstar went in a different direction that was not entirely pleasant with 4. And I think Rockstar might be listening, and that's why you said it seemed more like San Andreas. And we know that how popular Saints Row is, and we know that like Sleeping Dogs is really effing good. So I'm hoping that they understand where GTA started and try to give us a little bit more fun in their game.
Yeah. Kilo, which I think is that 3 L's in his name? Yeah, Kilo. I hope they had all the good things that GTA San Andreas had, like owning businesses, turf wars, all the good stuff that GTA 4 didn't have. I mean, everything does point to something a bit more San Andreas-y like this time.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just wishful thinking.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
maybe there's crop dusting.
There is crop dusting. I'm guessing like the scope of San Andreas was probably too hard for your first effort.
Yeah.
But we saw that Red Dead is way bigger and more interesting than GTA 4, so maybe they can do this now.
Yeah.
Do the game justice.
Splendid. Anything to add, gentlemen, or should we move along?
Let's move along.
Let's move along. So we'll move on to the Peter Moore quote of the week about digital and free-to-play, because he seems to say something every week these days. We've talked about it before. Peter Moore is evangelizing free-to-play games, claiming once again that they are the future of the industry. Try before you buy is a business model that ensures more players get their hands on a game, and if it's any good, they might even shell out money. Peter, we've been hearing reports about this for a while now, and it's going to overtake the pay-to-play model. Do you think they're right? I mean, like every week, Peter Moore's been out there saying, well, digital's going to outdo it, and free-to-play's the future, and look, we've announced another one, and are you on board?
Well, digital is a whole other beast. The free-to-play thing, I don't see that as overtaking the pay-to-play model. I mean, you have people who want to dip their feet in the water a little bit. Mm-hmm. We already have demos for that. So that point that we need a whole different model to do that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. It just sounds like marketing on his behalf. And I kind of just see, a world where free-to-play could exist. It already does to a degree. But again, I think it's going to split the industry maybe in some directions. I don't see one overtaking the other, considering they both exist right now.
Right.
And they are very different.
How about you, Tom?
I'm always scared about free-to-play. I'm always the scared guy. I'm a coward. It's like, because games have been devalued recently with, iOS games going for $1 and Steam sales where you can get like brand new games for $5. Like the value of what games are, what they're worth, has been diminished, I think, in public eyes, and people just kind of wait for cheap stuff. And free to play is like the most egregious example of that, because you can play, like League of Legends is like a complete game, basically. Like you can just play this really awesome game and you don't have to pay anything. And it kind of just brings up the question of like, well, why would I ever pay $30 or $40 or $50 or like a whopping $60 for a game when I can just play for free? And if I want more, I can either pay or just move on to something else. So there's so many options. And I guess that's kind of scary to me, because I think games are awesome. I think they're worth money, and I think that they're worth having a big budget. And if you don't have a business model that like ensures you make money,
right?
I don't know if we're going to see stuff that's the same scope as.
So we were just rolling footage of what I'm sure the gameplay in the Command and Conquer game is going to look like.
Yep. Yeah, we don't know. We're guessing.
I mean, there's a question as well of like, and this goes to the League of Legends point, that in a multiplayer game,
yep,
there's potentially a bit more of a framework to hang it on, because they're giving us the playground and then throwing us in there, and then you buy the things that you take into the playground with you. It's probably a bit different for a narrative-driven single-player thing, right?
Yeah, when there are emotions tied to this, I don't think you're going to see people like enjoying the fact that like, halfway through a story, I need to pay an extra $2 to get the next 10 minutes of the story. It doesn't make sense. Sure, somebody will probably try it if they haven't already, but that won't fly. I don't think people will ever buy into that.
Yeah, we were having a conversation, Sean McInnes and I, in the office, and he was talking about, in Red Dead Redemption, you just like have the story for free, and the side quest would be extra. Yep. But then you think about like, okay, what about a narrative-driven game like Uncharted? Like that is strictly linear. Am I gonna?
That may even end up being like the Telltale model,
where it's like episodic.
They divide it up into episodes.
But that makes more sense.
That's different.
Like a season pass at $60 and I get 8 episodes. I can stomach that model. But like, what would Uncharted be in a free-to-play world? Which is why I agree with Peter ultimately, begrudgingly.
Oh,
Peter Moore's like, it's not going to take over. Peter Moore says it's going to take over. It's going to coexist, and I think it's going to continue with Team Fortress, and League of Legends will be free to play, whereas Mario is going to be $40. You get a complete experience, and that's just how it's going to always exist.
Well, as ever, when this stuff comes up, the comments go just batshit crazy. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take the bullet, and I'm gonna do the guy with the unpronounceable name.
Oh,
A B C D E F G A B C D E F G Z. Absidy Fugs.
that was awesome.
Make a note of that, Homer. I will actually say I do agree with this. I think free-to-play has a lot of potential, but it needs to overcome that pay-to-win feeling like everyone else just buys their way into a win. That doesn't sit well with a lot of gamers. I don't know. This is something that a lot of people bring up in our comments, and I think we've kind of passed the pay-to-win
Well, that's still
thing now.
Because like World of Tanks is considered. It's like, well, that's one of the best free-to-play games. So that did still have the you can sink in hours or you can sink in dollars to get new tanks.
Yeah, you can drop $20 and get a killer tank.
Yeah, so I mean, it does still exist, and I love how like EA has actually been doing this on consoles. Need for Speed had like, what if you just pay to unlock cars? I mean, the free-to-pay model is the dangerous thing.
Yeah, Variety with a 3 says this change is only good for the publisher, not the consumer, and that echoes, I think, something that we've heard from quite a lot of people in the comments. That every time we do a free-to-play story, I think there's definitely a sense that we're hearing publishers describing how they're going to make more money, not what is better for their audience.
Yeah, we had Firaxis, 2 guys from Firaxis on this week's gameplay. And we talked about this because they're making XCOM and Command and Conquer strategy also, and has a different business model. And they were just talking about from like a game design perspective, like you're not really gaining anything from this. Like it's purely a business model. It's really a profit-driven angle, and that's kind of where it gets dangerous is when the publishers start dabbling in with the developers' creativity.
Yeah.
Do either of you play any free-to-play games?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not even League of Legends.
The only free-to-play game I've played is ad-supported Angry Birds.
Ooh.
Okay.
I mean, that's one thing too. You know, where you get a game and you have the ad. I mean, yeah, that monetizes it in a way, but essentially it's free to play for me.
Right.
Whether or not I'm sacrificing a bit of myself from viewing these ads, you know,
Right.
it's kind of negligible for me.
So do you think his games get more and more popular? And I think they are. I don't think that's crazy to say. Do you think ads will just be a bigger part, like NBC? Or I guess CBS, a fine CBS.
Yeah, and product placement, I think we'll see more and more of.
Because we see that a lot now. Like, you know, Madden is full of ads, but we still pay 60 bones. Like, do you think that we'll see maybe like cheaper games because of that? Is that even a thing in the future?
Right, but I think the key is the ads have got to be a little less obnoxious.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think we've done that. We're blasting through these pretty quick this week. All right, next up. David Cage calls for an Apocalypse Now-like shooter. So we all know who David Cage is. He made Heavy Rain, Indigo Prophecy. So he argued recently that war games should go beyond glorifying violence. This is a topic for you, Tom. That's so prevalent in popular franchises such as Call of Duty. There are 2 problems, he says. First, already, there isn't... Oh, no, this is us. I'm sorry. I'm reading our notes and getting it all wrong. We already tackled this with Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah.
And Warfighter, which is your pet topic lately, Tom, they're coming at it from a slightly different angle. Do you think he's like a little late with this, or
no? One of the trends we always try to get comments that represent a diverse opinion. I think about 90% of the comments were, did this guy play Spec Ops? Spec Ops is the only example of a military game that like treats war seriously and has something to say other than war is fun and America is the best country in the world. So I mean it's perfectly reasonable for someone to like look at this and say we needed more games that explore mature topics and themes and not just what we have on the market.
Right.
So I don't think he's late.
I think the problem with something like Spec Ops: The Line, which I haven't played, but I've listened to all of you talk about, it's primarily a shooter. It's not a narrative-driven game. Although it seems to have those elements in there, and that kind of brings up the relevance to this topic. But when you still have a shooter mechanic as the primary focus for a game, it's still kind of over. It steps over this little narrative bit that you have. It's marketed as a shooter. For all the trailers I saw, I never once understood what it was really about until I started to hear all of you talk about it.
So is it? I mean, I don't play much of it either, but I mean, shooters at their core are power fantasy, right?
Yep.
I mean, Spec Ops still kind of satisfies that as well, though, right?
It's interesting because it shows what's wrong with the hero mentality. It flips it on its head,
right?
And shows the danger of it, and it does some fourth wall breaking that's really interesting with that. I don't want to get into spoiler topic with that, but it is very mature. But like Peter says, it is still a shooter. So I mean, how come we don't see other military war games that are in a different genre? How come it's so stuck in this? real-time strategy games, I guess, and that's basically it.
Well, this is, I think, why you have David Cage talking about it, right? His games sort of have film-like qualities. And that's an area where we've seen, even apart from Apocalypse Now, we've seen these things where it's not all about the combat. It's about the soldiers dealing with their strife off the battlefield. And you put that in a gameplay environment, and it just becomes less of a game. So whether or not this medium can really handle that, I think, is up to the people who want something like that, whether or not they'll support it with their dollars. That
is the big question also. Spec Ops bombed.
Yeah.
We don't know sales numbers, but it wasn't in the MPDs. It didn't make a real dent at retail. But people, I think the general public still either views games kind of as juvenile, and partly because the most popular games are stuff like Call of Duty, which is just dreck. So I mean, what if there was more heart and more meaning in these games, and then it expands the audience beyond just people who want the power fantasies, and all of a sudden people who like Hurt Locker are playing video games.
Yeah.
But I think the point there, we question whether there's demand. I think there's some demand, but I think that kind of raw, it didn't make the top 10 in MPD, so it bombed mentality is that, when you're making art that is saying something about war, commercialism isn't top of your list of things to do, right? So I think the system is broken in more than just motivation for showing something. It's, well, I've got to make something that's going to sell a lot, and if I want to sell 10 million copies, then right now it seems like if you want to do that, you can't say anything. It's either a power fantasy or it's an arty indie that's judged by a whole different set of metrics, and we don't seem to have that middle ground in games yet.
No, it's expensive, and I mean, Spec Ops was in development for 5 years, and I applaud Take-Two for publishing it, but I mean, they knew they were going to take a bath.
They could have killed it so many times. I mean, they went back and reworked it. And, yeah.
So I mean, you have to be impressed that they released the darn thing, But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that it's more likely we're going to get a game that's similar to the Moon that talks about war than we're going to get a game like Call of Duty that says something about war, just because it's so expensive to get this stuff on retail, and the people who play war games want power fantasies still.
That's the point, I think.
Yeah.
Deathstream in the comments counters this with, and meanwhile, real gamers want to see Cage make a game, not a glorified 6-hour cutscene. The one thing that I did felt that, I love David's sort of approach to things and the things that he says, but I think the one thing that a lot of people don't appreciate is he wants his idea of narrative and emotion, and he wants to control the emotional response rather than drop you in a sandbox and let you find an emotional experience. And I think I think that speaks to this sort of glorified 6-hour cutscene thing, is that you are on a very controlled ride with him. I mean, is there anything you've played that has given you complete freedom that you've also had an emotional response to?
Oh, jeez,
that's a very good question.
That is very rare, isn't it?
Have either of you played DayZ?
No, I have not played it yet.
So DayZ is one where, I mean, at its core, that game, I watched Walking Dead and I've read the comic books. And the one thing that I think comes across in the comic books more than in the TV show is everyone is such a dick to each other. And it's it's the end of the world and the zombie. Why are you all killing each other when the zombies are? And DayZ is the only game I've played that really helps tap into an understanding of why that happens. And that is, you're in a desperate situation. You don't know where anything is. You don't know who anyone is or what anyone's motivation is. So you very quickly adopt this survival mentality in the game, and it doesn't spell it out for you. It doesn't tell you that you have to do that. You just quickly become very aware that, you are going to fall into one of two basic roles in that game. You're either going to be the guy that helps everyone out, and you're the Good Samaritan, or you're just going to kill anything that moves. And the community that's building up around it is forming around those, and they did nothing to control it. I mean, it's the complete opposite of the David Cage approach. But that's a tough thing to pull off.
It is, but it's one of the reasons, and I had a similar, Spec Ops does some very interesting gameplay things where you have to make a decision within a split second without, there's no right or wrong answer. You just have to decide how you're going to act in a war environment. And it kind of just cements the games have a lot of power that movies and books don't have because they're interactive. And you see, the hero of a movie or a book or whatever, you see them make decisions, and you know what they're thinking internally. But it's so different when you have to make that decision, and it's so much tougher to judge that action was wrong in a war game if you had to make that decision to like, oh, I'm going to shoot out a balcony to kill people underneath it, even though that balcony has children on top of it. Like, you have to make that decision on the fly, and you have to live with the consequences. So that's why I wish more developers would take off the shackles and just kind of let you experience war and understand why war is so terrible.
Right.
Instead of just having like this, like, open the door quick, there's a helicopter, like, narrative that doesn't say anything.
And doesn't that require a bit of dark, creation? I mean, you kind of have to present the things that really are sensitive and that do give people the understanding that this is terrible. Like, you never want to experience this, nor should you joke about it, you know, or make light of it.
And it gets blown out of proportion and characterized as games glorifying whatever, you know?
Yeah, I almost
Call of Duty has stopped dabbling in that. I mean, admittedly, it was always a bit heavy-handed. But
yeah,
I think over time they've stepped away from the, you know, there's usually one contentious scene in each single-player campaign, but they don't really dwell on it.
No, they don't. There are two developers I'd like to see jump into this. I think Rockstar does a great job of making believable worlds and believable characters, and I'd love to see their take on war, since they bring Americana to life.
Yeah.
And Peter Molyneux loves to explore human nature.
Right.
So seeing what he could do with a war game would be incredible, because that's basically what war is interesting, is examining human nature in like the most tense.
Do you think Cage could do it? I mean, everything he's done has been sci-fi, but Unfallen Satan in the comments says, "Go for it, Mr. Cage. You are a video game maker. Take charge of the issue and make the next great first-person shooter of conscience."
I don't know if he can make gameplay, moment-to-moment gameplay that's good enough for people to overlook those hurdles to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think he can make a game that's narratively powerful.
No.
Yeah, and then, but how much of a game is it at that point?
I know.
And then that's the line. And I think maybe some of these people should dabble in things other than strictly like, action-based gameplay or tying a narrative to A or B.
Yeah.
And if maybe that could come in the form of episodic content, where the first episode really is a view into the life of these people, and you really can't really interact, right? But then there is the promise of, okay, you're going to have to go into battle. And you could take that to certain extremes, right? One hit in the wrong place and your time with this series is over.
Yeah,
maybe you have to start from the beginning. You have to watch episode 1 and it gives you sort of a buffer before you get into the next one. I don't think unless you take away the, virtual life of a player that they're going to understand, even though it's nowhere near what you should really understand about these topics. At least that way they can somehow relate to like, okay, wow, this is actually, I didn't just die and hit start, again, it affects them in a way.
I totally agree, because as far as humanity in war games, Brothers in Arms did a good job of like, hey, these people are real, and you get to know them and understand them.
Yeah.
But it didn't go any deeper than just like understanding that soldiers are real people, at least on the American side. So I mean, that's a start. And I agree. I think that you need real punishment, you need real consequences, and you need real sacrifice, and you need real. Instead of getting away from just like the real hero mentality.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to wrap this part up with a comment that I don't really understand from Bong Sias 23, who says, but it does segue nicely into the next story.
yes,
David Cage should be the next president.
that's why I've copied and pasted it. It's perfect.
We should point out that he is French. All right, so a little bit of politics now. Chair Entertainment, the guys that made Infinity Blade 2, which is the Unreal. It's basically Punch-Out with swords, if you haven't played it. But it does look very nice. They also made Shadow Complex, which you may be familiar with. They reskinned Infinity Blade for iOS as a game called Vote the Game, which is an Obama versus Romney one-on-one brawl. Have either of you seen it yet? Or at least seen the video?
Yes.
You have seen it. All right, so... Do you think there's a place for this kind of slap? I mean, like, so the motivation, they say, is it's awareness. It's getting it. They're tying in with Rock the Vote. Do you think they're pulling it off, or is it just kind of trivializing the whole thing a bit? Look at it. There you go. Obama hitting Romney with a microphone,
and it says
you can dress them up and give them mustache. Look, he looks like Bill Campbell there.
The Obama wiener dance. So, I mean, I don't really see anybody getting off their chair or, wherever. They're on the bus playing this game. And they're like, you know what? I need to go vote because I hate Romney. He just kicked my ass.
I kicked Romney's ass. I'm going to go vote.
Yeah. No, and so in that regard, right, like that's the biggest thing we stand to lose from a game like this is somebody giving a vote based on what they've played. So I don't think it's that bad.
Right.
Personally.
How about you, Tom? Do you think it?
I think in like a standalone product, it's not bad, but when you take in the greater context,
It's also free. Back to
it's
the
totally
thing that
free.
we said earlier on. Yeah.
They give this thing away. I think in the greater context, when you talk about like how the general public would view games and like what games are saying and how they could be an art form and all this other boring stuff we talk about every week, like this is kind of damaging because it's like unrelentingly stupid and it doesn't have any kind of point. Like it's not like a satirical thing because there's no statement it's making. Like even if they had like Jill Green
It's
come
saying who would win in a fight.
yeah. If it had like Jill Green come in and all of a sudden she was the end boss or she whoops them both and like they were saying like, oh, maybe the Green Party, maybe the third option, like that would at least be saying something. But now it's just like pandering.
Now you're
to
just thinking, Tom. Come on.
I'm sorry, it's pandering to slapstick silliness, I guess. And I expect more. I want developers to like take this stuff seriously. Like I care about it. Why do they not like care about it? Like Shouldn't there be some way to address this, like the election in game form that is not demeaning and stupid?
There was some stuff last time, right? There was a strategy game that was like
The political machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do it, and they do one
Yeah.
every election cycle, I think. So there is some stuff like that, but I mean this.
Well,
This
not
is the-
everyone on the side agrees with you. Colkern says, "Why can't debates be like this? I think people should wield wieners and wear fake mustaches and hold lightsabers and just go for it."
Yeah, I mean I'm mostly alone in this. I just expect so much more from games.
Master
This is
Turismo
good.
agrees with you. A good reason why politics shouldn't be in games. Actually, he doesn't agree with you, does he? I think politics should be in games. But
Yeah. Why not? Why can't we do stuff with politics? It could be interesting. There's not many examples of it, but it could be interesting. I think my reaction was the same as Kazum Shadow.
Is that a question?
I don't. I'm so bad with reading. He goes, what did I just, what? I think that was the actual reaction in the office where we were like, is this, the guys that made Shadow Complex are now doing this?
I don't think it does any of the candidates' positions justice. But I don't.
Oh, it's so great.
But it doesn't damage anything. I don't see it. Like I said, if the vote really is what's at stake, this is not going to steer people one way or the
What
other.
if it just did something simple like, so in this match, it's to settle abortion once and for all, and it just
Damn, dude.
which sounds very serious, but then it just has like, here's what Obama
Let's
said
settle it
about.
once and for all by hitting each other.
Well, yeah, it'd still be by hitting each other, but then it just at least has beforehand, here's Obama's position and here's Romney's position as of 3 p.m. today. And you'd be able to at least understand a little bit before you do the stupidness. Like at least if you're going to talk about rocking the vote, you have to both vote and be smart enough to like know the issues. Like this is just feeding into ignorance, isn't it? Like it'd be so simple to have the loading screen just give you details.
Right.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. I'm giving a free update. Just update this stuff as it goes.
Put some issues into it.
And a little bit of Jill Green. just
You really want that, right?
So what if it was something that was like abortion the game, and that sounds awful. That sounds awful, but but if taken seriously to the point where it could affect somebody, and then at the end say like, well, this is the way you feel.
So Infinity Blade actually the engine that underlies this game, there is a system where everyone that plays it contributes to a metagame,
Right,
which
yeah.
is stats. There's like teams or there's so they could structure something in that you are making a statement in how you ally yourself in the game and the actions that you take. I mean, there's more than just two guys hitting each other with microphones that they could build into it if they wanted to.
I do need to just say that I do not think abortion the game should be made.
You just like to make that very clear.
Yes, I do want to make that very clear.
finish for the best.
Before anybody jumps on me on my first episode on KTF, I just need to make sure that everyone knows that, yeah, that was anecdotal. I think the tech that they have for Infinity Blade with the crowd, gaming and all, I think that it could be used to an effective
I mean, it could be
degree.
really interesting that, in a set period of time, we threw this question into the game and the way that you vote on it in the system, it's like a very elaborate polling system essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like you choose to be either Romney or Obama and you fight for that position. I mean, I think then you've got some substance to them just knocking the stuff out.
It's just something. Like I want something
Yeah.
with this because as it is, it's just so slight that it's laughable and I think that we're better than that.
Yeah. All right, moving along. Call of Duty is very popular.
Now we debate. I'll take the pro, you take the con, Peter.
Breaking news, it's very popular. But why is it very popular? Why do you think it's popular?
Well, you have to tell us, and then we tell.
I was going to see if you were going to offer anything that you felt. So the guys at Treyarch think that it's because it feels so fluid. Do you agree with that? So it consistently runs at 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
And it's very smooth, and it's very different than all the other games out there. And they think that that's a big part of why it's so popular. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I feel like there is some brand recognition involved with the popularity. People do.
I mean, there is. I mean, you can see it now. I mean, there is
it runs.
silkiness to the way that it moves.
It is so smooth, but I don't know if the average user really considers that when they go to purchase this game, right? I mean, they want the next Call of Duty. They don't. I doubt they spend time researching the frame rate before they go to the store. Like, okay,
but
cool.
It's about
they didn't change
feel,
it.
right? So, is the frame rate what's responsible for the great feel of Call of Duty?
See, I guess like Call of Duty has not always been Call of Duty. It used to just be like a game.
Yeah.
And I actually do think that the smoothness has contributed to its popularity, because Call of Duty feels really good. And you're not going to hear me say many good things about Call of Duty because I don't like the franchise and what it stands for. But it is the best feeling shooter out there. Just the gunplay is second to none. And it's like, you ask the average person about this, and they have no idea. Right. I don't even know if I'd be able to point out like exactly why. But it's like they made such amazing tech, even though it doesn't look great in screenshots. They made such amazing tech that moves so good that I think that people latched onto that, and just the joy of shooting people in these horrible environments has made this game super popular. I actually think that he's right about this. And it's weird that I like tweeted 2 weeks ago, how come developers have ripped off every part of Call of Duty except the frame rate, and now the developers coming out and saying this. I think that's actually a huge thing.
Literally, they follow you on Twitter.
They might follow me. There's a potential like this. But it's like, it doesn't look great in screenshots. Call of Duty, we always make fun of it because I think it runs at sub 720p, and like Battlefield looks so good on its Frost engine and stuff, but it feels better to play this than any other shooter by far.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think actually, I mean, Shadow of Kratos in the comments said he should be talking about the fluidity and accuracy of the controls, not the frames a second. But I think one is informed by the other, right? I mean, I think the reason it feels so good is because it runs so smoothly. The Shonen 8899 says, so this is how they defend their crappy graphics. I mean, I don't think it looks that bad.
No, it doesn't. It looks good. I mean, it's a modern gen game that's got a lot of money pumped into it, and it shows. It looks nice. It's polished. Like, if this is your kind of game, I mean, it's silly if you're nitpicking over a few polygons or textures, right?
Yeah.
This looks good.
Well, the Shonen gets to a larger issue, and it's like there's a finite amount of technology you can do with games. That sounds dumb to say, but you know what I'm talking about. Polygons and shaders and all that. And it's like, where should they focus? Where do you draw the line? Where is good enough? When is it good enough? And I guess that's, I kind of want to ask you that, Peter, because you know tech better than anyone at the stable.
So Spec Ops: The Line, when that was going around the office, Kevin Van Ord was praising left and right, like the visuals and how great it looked on the color palette. That game is so technically deficient to me when I look at it. There's not that much real-time lighting going on. There are noticeable polygon deficiencies in certain areas where you have edges that are not organic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's why people passed up on the game, but if you asked me what game I thought looked better, I would say Call of Duty.
Okay.
So perhaps that's an element. I mean, perhaps he is right to a degree, you know?
Yeah, I guess with me, with tech, like I don't really care about technology, and it just seems like it's hammered home and again, because we see Star Wars 1313 demo, and I don't think it actually looks that good at all, even though technically it's far beyond cutting edge. Whereas Spec Ops: The Line, I actually thought it looked great visually, even though it has a lot of problems technically because the visual design is really great. So I guess for me, I wish developers would just kind of like scale back with the Frostbite and the Crytek engine and all this other stuff, and just like focus on making a game that kind of looks good,
right?
I guess, and runs smoothly. And you know, Darksiders 2, you know, it's got bad frame rate and screen tearing, and it's like I'd rather run better than push the polygons, I guess.
Well, what's going to be interesting with the next generation is polygons are not the issue currently with games looking good. What it is real-time lighting and to a degree physics, whether that is volumetric stuff like fog and fire or water to some degree. That really sets the bar for what looks real or in some people's eyes good. If you apply, like I didn't play Spec Ops at all, but I would imagine the PC version is a little bit better with a high-end card that could handle real-time lighting if that was implemented. And so I think it's going to get to a point where games it will finally be about the art style. It won't be about the number of polygons or the frame rate.
The tech is irrelevant at that point,
yes,
right?
we will hit the a landmark of sorts. Maybe not the landmark, but a point where immersion is that much easier to achieve when you're not noticing these glaring errors or these things like why is that there? Like, oh, clearly they couldn't keep up, or the hardware couldn't keep up, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, one of the comments in here, Wild Tiger says, and he quotes Infinity Ward, or it's the other guy's Treyarch, even though they didn't say this, but we think having 60 frames per second is essential, not a great story, innovative gameplay, or any kind of change from the last game. And honestly, that's going to be true with a lot of people who play games, is they want something that plays better than anything else.
Right.
And everything else is going to be secondary to that.
Yeah.
And Call of Duty fits that mold. It's the best playing shooter. I mean, if you play that and Killzone back to back,
It's pretty clear, right?
it's pretty clear which one's better. And Killzone looks a million times better technically, but it just, people left it, and partly because I don't think it plays as good.
Yeah. All right, I got 3 quick hits for you at the end of this show. First one, Sony shut down their Liverpool studio, which none of us called it the Liverpool studio. It was Psygnosis.
Yes.
It was Psygnosis, damn it. What was your favorite game from the Psygnosis back catalog?
I mean, it's probably Wipeout XL, which is such like it's like an easy answer. I'm really bummed out about this.
Some of the first
I love Psygnosis.
first games I ever worked with professionally was Psygnosis. It wasn't the first. The first one I ever wrote about was Winter Games by Epix. But I very quickly went on to review things like Pteropods and Shadow of the Beast, and I mean, they were the guys on the cutting edge of graphics and sound and everything.
Yeah,
20 years ago
when the PlayStation came out, the original one,
Yeah.
Wipeout, I'd not seen anything like that, and I grew up in a household primarily of PC gamers. My
Right.
father and my brother, and it was just like.
Do you remember how
This is
good
special.
their Formula One game looked when it came out? It was doing stuff that
You're talking to Americans.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was on the cover of magazines. I'm just as a demonstration of what the PS1 was actually capable of. They were pushing it beyond anybody.
Yeah, I guess what this story meant for me when I read it is they, like Bizarre Creations, primarily made racing games.
Yeah.
And the racing market has just bottomed out for some reason. And it's really sad to me because I mean, I think Bizarre was one of my favorite developers because just everything they made I thought was great. And it's like, what is the future of racing games if like great developers can't even live anymore?
All right, another sad one.
Yeah, what the heck?
Nintendo Power died this week. Any fond memories of You must have fond memories of Nintendo Power, Tom.
I don't know, what is Nintendo doing? What is Nintendo doing with this? I just think that they should have, even if they lost money every year, they should have kept it going because it is such like an integral part of so many people growing up. And
More so than the PlayStation magazine or the official Xbox magazine.
Never heard of
Nintendo
those.
Power was like an integral part of the culture, right?
It was a cultural touchstone.
And, yeah, there was a time when like no one else was doing what they were doing. You got maps of the level laid out frame by frame.
Yeah.
You got the big posters. I mean, it was beautiful. It was for the fans. It was for the people who cared, and they weren't doing anything wrong. Similarly to Liverpool Studio.
Yeah.
I don't understand why these people who are doing such great work have these things pulled from them. It just it makes you sad, and it kind of makes me sad about the future of where things are going.
Yeah, I mean, we know the magazines aren't as popular, but I mean, there has to be a place in the world for Nintendo Power. So
Yeah, so Future, who published it, apparently they offered Nintendo a variety of options, including moving it to being a digital magazine or moving it online, or did Nintendo want to take it back in house the way it used to be, and they were just done.
Yeah,
which is very sad.
It is.
We hope everyone that works there lands somewhere good.
I think it lasted 19 years. I think it was like 88 to 2000. Or it was longer than that. So
all right, last one. Rumors are starting to come out that Fallout 4 is in Boston. I don't know whether it's true or not. Where would you want to see it?
Not in Boston. That's for
Not
sure.
Boston?
I want someplace far away, someplace way different, someplace that's not Moscow because that looks already like it's radioactive. Like maybe Tokyo would be fun.
Jeez.
Well, but you've already got those. I mean, they're not quite the post-nuclear apocalyptic thing, but you've got those Tokyo games with the earthquakes and everything. I mean, that's kind of similar, right?
Yeah, disaster report.
Yeah. Why not take it? I mean, everyone loves snow. We've said that enough over this year. Why
Yeah.
not take it to Alaska or Canada, like Anchorage? Bring it to Anchorage or something.
Yeah, I feel like Boston's a little too much like DC. We've already seen that.
another urban environment.
Go someplace crazy.
Yeah.
Go nuts with it. You can do whatever you want, Bethesda. You're the kings, I guess, of the open world RPG.
of that.
Yeah, kings of your specific genre.
All right, that wraps it up for this week. This has been Quote for Truth. To be quoted in the show, just any of the news stories that we post each week, just post in the comments and we'll go through and find the best ones every week.
Yep.
I've been your host, John Davison, Tom McShea, Peter Brown. Thank you very much. We'll be back next Friday.
Yes.